Meagan Michael. I am a seer, a seeker, a visionary, and a medium. Every Sunday, I present to you spiritual thought leaders from around our world and beyond. Today, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to bring to you a modern day Egyptian goddess, Yumna Zein. Give me 1 second here. Yumna is a certified women's circle facilitator, an Akashic Records practitioner, a QHHT practitioner, energy healer, soul coach, and an ICF life coach. We're going to talk about all of these things. Some of them I'm not sure about yet, and I want to learn all about it. So please join me in welcoming Yumna Zein.
See, thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction. As you were going through all those titles, what was coming through for me was like, I feel like what I do is just like play in consciousness. So we're going to play in consciousness today.
Love it. I love it. I'm ready to play. I'm ready to play.
Indeed.
So I wanted to make sure there's our broadcast. We are live on Facebook. Let me just, oops, I wasn't looking for that. Hold on. Let's see.
I'll see if I can.
Now, are you able to? I don't know why I'm not seeing it on YouTube, but I'm not going to worry about that. We are on Facebook, and I'll make sure it gets onto YouTube. Oh, there we are. We're totally live on YouTube on High Vibrational Mastery today, guys. So if you're watching this now, we are live on High Vibrational Mastery on YouTube and the YouTube channel. Okay, so you've got the post on Facebook, right?
I'm sharing it to my group, the Feminine Experience, and I'm sharing it to my page so that all the lovely people can
doing the same thing. Go and join us live now. Meagan Michael with special guest, modern day Egyptian. I just love that so much because you are that, you know.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's I am Egyptian. No one has called me by that title before, but it really resonates. And we're all goddesses, and I am Egyptian. So
let's talk about and when are you done sharing? Because if you're still sharing,
yes.
We'll wait. Okay, so let's start right there because you are the first beautiful soul who was born in this incarnation in Egypt. Now, I want to like preface this by throwing some things out there. I don't let you address all of them or none of them or whatever you want to talk about. But so a lot of us as light workers, we are so drawn to the Egyptians, right? The ancient Egyptians and Ra and Isis and Osiris and all of these beautiful gods and goddesses and the pyramids, right? And all of this. But I've never yet spoken to anybody in all the years that I've been doing interviews who was actually born in Egypt in this now reality and also a light worker. And so I know before the interview, you had mentioned that not everybody who's born in Egypt or even lives in Egypt is into like the old. So I want to give it to you because I want you to talk about what it's like in Egypt, you know, and then what is it like from your perspective as this beautiful, you know, a new age is coming up. I know, whatever, but new age, like new modern Egyptian goddess. Let's start right there. I'd love it.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up because that absolutely is where the story begins, I suppose. So there is a big distinction between modern day Egypt and ancient Egypt. So I feel that with progression, we have very strongly disconnected from anything and everything that was ancient, and because in a sense it is extremely powerful. So almost in this process of like forgetting, as we are remembering now, we have gotten through a process of forgetting. So in that process of forgetting our power, a lot of the magic and the energy and the co-creation that was present in ancient Egypt has been forgotten, has been lost. So how it is perceived now in Egypt is a lot of the times it's just, places where we go for outings. We go and look at the temples, or we go and look at the pyramids, and oh, look, our ancestors were so cool. And that's pretty much it. Like, have a picnic outside or something, and that's
they're not like deeply meaningful to the majority.
No.
Pyramids, Sphinx, they're not like, wow, it's just like, right? That's not how it is, huh?
It inspires awe, because I feel that was the intention, actually. So it's almost like whether or not you connect, you are still inspired and in awe, because that is their power. This just their sheer presence. Okay. But beyond that, we still have a journey to remember. And I do know, not many, but I choose to believe that they will grow. I do know various Egyptians who are currently, remembering and more in touch. Even those who, I was a mentor of mine was an Egyptian, she's a friend and an Egyptian, and a light worker and a healer and everything, really. So. And when I connected with her, that was when I began to really go deeply into my Egyptianism, my original DNA almost, and to remember, and that is available, for everybody. There are certain limiting beliefs sometimes that, as modern day Egyptians, we may encounter, things like cultural barriers or religious barriers, a disconnect from that sense of oneness. Okay. But I trust we'll find our way.
I love that. So where were you born in Egypt?
I was born in Cairo.
Cairo. How cool is that?
It truly is.
It couldn't be any cooler, really. I was born in Cairo,
actually, so for a very long time, my parents' house was maybe like 10 minutes away from the pyramids. Oh, it still is, actually, but they don't live there anymore. But
wow. Just so amazing. So you live in the United States, is that correct?
I do. I moved to Houston about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's it? You moved from Egypt just 2.5 years ago?
So I've been around a little bit. I was born in Egypt, and then when I was about 7 or 8, my parents moved to Dubai. So I spent 18 years of my life in Dubai. And, Dubai is very glamorous, but it has its own unique sense of disconnect as well. So I experienced that, and it was, a lot of these experiences really are what brought me to a point where I needed to discover myself, because I was, in societies that are largely disconnected from emotions and spirituality in many ways. So I spent about 18 years in Dubai, and then I went back to Egypt to work. I was actually leading a very different life. I was an oil and gas engineer.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is very different, huh?
It is. And it was very, very masculine. I used to go out on oil rigs and, spend weeks in caravans, and it was just all men around, and it's an extremely masculine energy. And then when we moved here, things started to unfold.
That's really cool. On a couple of different levels, because I want to point out that I have mentioned a couple of times to Yomna already that we look a lot alike.
We do.
I mean, I'm looking at her, I'm looking at me, even on the promos and next to me on the live stream. I mean, it's very beautiful. That's not like toot my own horn, but I'm just saying, regardless of whatever. I mean, our noses are similar, our mouths. I'm like, really
I know.
So, and she feels like she has daughter energy to me.
Indeed.
Right. And so I think, and I forgot where I was going with the whole conversation there, though. I brought that up because it's cool, but there's another reason I was going to say something. Really?
Is it past lives, perhaps, you wanted to discuss?
Well, I do want to discuss that. That's a perfect segue into that. Thank you. So all of these amazing titles that you have, let's dive into that, if you would not mind. Unless you want to talk more about growing up or whatever, that's cool too.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I'm open to all of it, and I feel, it's all going to tie in, because really none of my life or journey has been linear in any way. So it's very appropriate to kind of
Oh, I do know
shift.
what I was going to say, though. I just remember to throw it out there. I was not an oil and gas engineer, but I was an auto mechanic, and I was also I did a lot of things actually, but I was also always in very like male dominated fields, like sales and marketing and stuff like that. So, so aside from the fact that we resemble each other, we resemble each other. Totally a
Indeed.
soul connection. So
Wow.
on that note, can we start by talking about the Akashic Records?
Yes.
Because you are an Akashic Records practitioner, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, what is an Akashic Records practitioner? Let's talk about the Akashic Records. Hi, Shadow.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Let's. So it's beautiful again that we're starting with that, because the Akashic Records were actually my gateway into playing with consciousness. So in the very beginning, what led me to explore spirituality deeper was my own rock bottom. I had, reached rock bottom emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything, mentally. And, it's a blessing when you're in that space, because it forces you to go into places where we wouldn't originally go. So I was, through we would say a coincidence, but there are no coincidences. I was looking at YouTube, and there was this YouTuber talking about just energy healing and things like that, and then he mentioned Akashic Records. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds really familiar, but I have no idea what it means. So I went down a complete rabbit hole on YouTube and started to watch everything I can about Akashic Records. And so that was my lead-in into connecting with the records. And so what the records are, essentially, because all of existence is vibration, and vibration contains information, right?
Yes.
So the Akashic Records are the basically the supercomputer of the universe. So they are a vibrational database. And when you are able to align your vibration with the vibration of the records, you are able to basically translate that vibration into information. And so some people like to perceive the records, or maybe have heard of the records, as like a library, or that kind of thing. Those are beautiful descriptions to allow the mental mind to kind of understand how things are, what it means. But essentially, what the records are, they are a vibration. In past times, many thousands of years ago, the records were they were part of the ancient mystery schools. So not everyone would be allowed to learn how to do that, or to align their energy with them, because it is a massively powerful energy. You literally plug into the universe. So it was something that was contained and not taught openly. However, in recent times, because we are in a time of, as you very well know, great shift, huge energetic raise in vibration, a complete turnaround into a new era, the Aquarian age, and lots and lots of shifts and changes on a personal, collective level. The Akashic Records are now more open to those who wish to explore them and work with others, if their intentions are obviously in the highest good. Because you can desire to connect with the records, but there are record keepers, essentially, what we would call keepers, but what they are is like energy gateways. If you are at the same vibration and your intention aligns with the records, you pass that gateway. And if it's not, then you basically get like locked out. So you don't, you're not able to align with them. So in essence, now accessing the records is more available to people, and a lot of people are getting different ways to, or channeling different ways to align with the records and to access them. You know, in the very beginning, there was a prayer that you can actually find online where you can, you know, use that. Now, as things are really accelerating and you know, just shifting crazily, there are various ways where you can just, if you are in a high vibrational energy, you can, with intention, align with them. So, and that's what I do. So, and then when I am when I am in the records, what do I do?
I'll just sit here and listen. She's doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm so passionate about this. I could talk for like months. So please just like, you know, jump in if something comes up.
Yeah, I want to hear all. I do. I want to know like what it is that you do for others, and maybe you can give a tip. Maybe not. Maybe now or later, whatever. A tip to others what they want. I think you just did though on how they can connect. I guess they have to raise their vibration and set the intention. Is that right?
Yes. So there is. We can talk about that. I'll quickly kind of go over what you can do in your records, because you can access your own records again, and it's a practice that you can do. So when you what is available for you in your records is really an infinite amount of things. Number one, if you just access your records and literally stay in that vibration, almost like in meditation, it is a healing experience. So you would feel energy moving through your body. You would feel release, you know, whether coughing or burping, or like, you know, energy coming out of your hands or your feet or your heart center, a lot of the times, literally just by being in your records. So that is one of the first things. The other thing is that I am able to, acting as a vessel, I can access other people's records with their permission and really bring clarity on things that they would like to ask about. So what you would call a reading, but it is, because there are no cards involved, it is more of like a channeling almost. And so all sorts of things come up when people ask things in their records. Sometimes it's the record keepers bringing through the information. Sometimes it's angels, ascended masters, you know, past loved ones. Sometimes they bring through certain practices or meditation specific for the person, depending on what it is that their intention is. So yeah, there's an infinite amount of things to do, and it's always what the person needs, not necessarily what they want. So, and that brings me to the point of past lives, because some people would like to access their records, you know, out of curiosity, like, oh, I just want to know, like, just tell me. And because they are in highly sacred space, going in with an energy of curiosity does not serve. So a lot of the times, questions like, you know, how many past lives have I had, or things like that, don't, if there isn't something that will serve you, they will not bring it up. And then on the other hand, even if you haven't asked, but there is a certain trauma or a certain energy block or things like that that has been passed on from a past life, they will bring it up because it needs to be talked about. Yeah, so it's just going in really with no expectations and trusting and just
receiving.
Indeed, and yeah, indeed, just receiving.
So what I want to know is, what do you do with your client, Trixie? Sorry, my kitty. So what do you do with your clients when things come up? Trixie, you've got to stop, honey. So you're in the records, and you say, oh, you were whatever, a gypsy in a past life and you were burned or whatever it is. And so now how do you help people release things? I know what you're saying. It's not just for information, not just curiosity. There's a purpose. So what do you do at that point?
Right. So a big part of what happens after information comes through happens with guidance from the record keepers and through intuitive kind of feeling. There is a numerous amount of things that we do. Sometimes, for example, because I like to bring things in body, sometimes what we do is we so I ask the client, in body, I ask the client to, sorry?
We'll talk about that too.
Yes, indeed. That's another good segue. So to whatever it is that the information is coming up. So for example, they were, a really common one is a witch, actually, who has been, burnt or persecuted in some way. And so when that energy comes through, I would ask my client, okay, so what is that experience? What emotion does it bring up in you? And, most of the time it would be fear. Okay, so where do you feel the fear in your body? And it can be, most of the time it's actually related to the way they died. So it can be like in their throat. Sometimes it's full body if they got like burnt or something. So I basically ask them to connect in their body with the energy. And then we go through various kind of energy healing processes. So I either assist by channeling energy, or we do a kind of facilitation where I ask them, visualize, what does that emotion look like? Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Is it asking you for something? Like, if it's a fire, is it asking you for water? So can you like visualize a waterfall of, energy or of light or of water coming down over your body? And so we revisit that until the emotion, until they no longer feel that emotion in their body, or it has shifted in some way. Or if when I ask them, they say, the color of that energy, like it just looks white to me now. It looks clear. And that's a good indication of like, oh, whatever was there is gone. If it's very, very deep, sometimes it takes several kind of rounds to do it. And because the records are so profound and just they really want to support people. That's what they're there for. Sometimes I just ask, okay, this is a bit too intense for this person right now. Can we, after we close their records, I ask the record keepers to continue the healing process in their sleep, so that their mental mind is more at ease and they're able to let go and just allow. And they would do that. So, but really it's, sometimes it's guided meditations that come through, like a journey that they want them to go through. Sometimes if it's things that are coming up in the future, they would ask them to visualize like the highest possible future that they like and really experience it. It's very, very much almost in a line with like the concept of law of attraction and things like that. They say things like that a lot, aligning your thoughts, aligning your energy. So that's kind of what generally happens.
That was very detailed and awesome and greatly appreciated by myself and many, I'm sure. I want to share that John Thaddeus Fiore, hello John, welcome. She says, I died a number of times in the 1300s. My name was Johann. I don't see it right now, but I just read it a moment ago. Okay.
There
it is.
That's interesting. Sorry?
I said he's been John for a long time. Johann and John, very similar, right?
Yeah, it is. So are you okay with shifting out of the records into something that is a little bit similar?
Let's do it. Let's go.
All right. So, working with the records, that was like my starting point. And then I came across several instances where sometimes some people have the tendency to almost give away their power to the person that is doing a reading for them, or a healing, or doing, their records or whatever. And there's almost this repetitive pattern of like, oh, can you please see if I'm supposed to do this? Or, oh, is this okay? Or, oh, why is this coming up for me? Can you please look it up? Or can we have a reading? And it's what it was bringing up within me was that my intention of working spiritually with people was to empower them as I was empowered, and to allow them to remember that they are their own guru, as Tony Robbins would say. They are their own master. They are their own divine channel. And if somebody is facilitating something, they are meant to facilitate it in order to almost like hold their hand and raise them to that level so that they can then do it on their own. So it never almost like satisfies me when people are constantly coming in for like readings or things like that, because it's like, no, there's something there. You're not taking ownership of your journey. And so what came up for me a little while after that was QHHT, the Dolores Cannon's method of healing, quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT. And
I'm so glad you went there, because I'm fascinated by this. And I've seen whatever I've seen on YouTube, but I've never talked to anybody about it directly, and I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So tell us about the QHHT, Dolores Cannon's QHHT.
Yes. So such an empowering and profound experience, honestly, life-changing. So what QHHT is based on is it's a hypnosis technique, right? And it has two stages. The first stage is accessing a past life that your higher self chooses to show to you. And again, it has nothing to do with what you want. It always has to do with what you need. So we have no almost say or control over what past life comes up. But interestingly, now, because the energies are so different, sometimes it's not even a past life that comes up. Sometimes it's in between lives, or lives on other planets, lives in other dimensions. Some souls have come to Earth for the first time. They have never been incarnated. Their past life is like source. They are part of source, and they just exist as energy. That's all they remember.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second? I've got a question. I don't want to forget.
Do
any of the new souls, please remember where you are, but do any of the new souls have like implanted memories, so they think they've been here before, or I'm just wondering if they feel like they think they're old souls, but they're really new souls and they don't really fit in?
Yes, yes. So there is, yes, that sometimes. So for example, you have a multitude of people who believe that they have, for example, been Cleopatra or Napoleon in a past life, or like, all the big famous characters. And it's like, well, you can't have 1,000,001 people who were Cleopatra in their past lives, because there was just one. So what that is exactly like you were saying. Sometimes certain souls, they request to have something like a blueprint inputted in them, because they require the skills, the memories, the wisdom, the awareness of that incarnation to be downloaded into them, almost. So they have a perception that, oh, this was me, but it's actually not. It's just almost like, and I love comparing, consciousness with technology, because that's really what it is. It's like, copying and pasting. an incarnation on people.
That's good.
That's essentially what it is, but it's not a true copy. It's a copy and paste, but the original exists. And so what is beautiful with QHHT is because after you do access that, whatever it is that might come up, someone might say, yes, I was Cleopatra, as they are experiencing that past life or what they perceive as past life. Mm-hmm. However, the second stage is going into a conversation with the higher self, with super consciousness, with oneness, with, whatever it is that you choose to call the infinite energy that exists and is the spark of creation. So we actually have a conversation with that energy. And so in that conversation, then we have awareness. We can ask, is this past life a true original past life, or is it just like a copy paste, something that they needed to learn? And it's like an up level. Like, you don't need to go through all of what like Napoleon went through or Hitler went through or Cleopatra went through. You get it downloaded and you're off to go. So we get awareness about that. The biggest and the most profound process that happens when speaking to the higher self or higher consciousness is the healing aspect of it. And of course, throughout this time, because it is a hypnosis technique, so it is the client who is speaking, and it is not me. And that in itself is extremely empowering when they hear themselves say that. So the healing that happens can happen in many ways. In general, you can ask for like a body scan. And again, it's very, it's really like high-tech technology. Like the movies that you see, like this scan that would go throughout the body. And sometimes they would even, specify percentages like, oh, body scan 80% complete, or, it's very, very technological. So they go through, and I say they because that's how they refer to themselves. It's like, it's a collective. It's a collective energy, and, you can ask them, would you like to be addressed as? And they say, you can address us as anything. We're just a collective energy. So they go through that scan, and then they would say, okay, we're at the sinuses. There is something that is going on here. And they would bring up, you can ask, what is the source of this? And they would say, well, because the person had a past life where they were like hit on their nose or something. Or their throat, they're having like thyroid problems. Well, it's because they're not speaking their truth in this lifetime. They're suffocating themselves almost. And when the message comes through, you can request them to, say, okay, the person has gotten the message. They no longer require this illness or disease. Could you please, heal it or align their energy and clear it for them? And they would say, yes, we would love to. And they do that, everywhere, throughout the body. Yeah. And if the person is not yet ready to let go, or they need that disease or illness as a reminder, they would say, well, no, we can't really do that right now. They need this as a part of their journey. They're not ready yet. So it's fascinating. I can talk about this till tomorrow.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Wow, so you're taking the person into hypnosis, mm-hmm. and they go back into past lives, and then you bring up these things. I'm just processing it, mm-hmm. as I'm like recapping everything you just said. They bring up these things, and then spirit heals them if they don't need it anymore. What about the life between lives?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm fascinated by that. I've heard things about it, mm-hmm. like in between lives. The spirit, they decided, okay, I'm going to do this next, or they had this conversation with God or whatever. So have you taken clients in between lives before, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So in general, what the process that I take them through is that in the hypnosis, in the beginning of getting into hypnosis and asking for them to get into a past life, we go into the past life, experience it, or past, present, future, other dimensional life, whatever it is. And then the last stage is asking them to go to the last day of that life. And they basically go through the death process. And a big part of the trauma that carries on from past lives is because of the death process. So we go through the death process in order to release that. And then they go into that in-between life space. And interestingly, I very recently had a client who went into that, and a lot of them describe it as like a tunnel of light, really as we do see in like movies, and people who have had near-death experiences and things describe, it is a sensation of just this overwhelming white light. And so this recent client, she was there, and then she made a choice to go back. She said, no, I'm not ready. I don't want to leave. She was attached to this relationship, and she was like, no, I choose not to leave. And she was brought back. So that was a really interesting one, because it kind of brought to my awareness that there is that possibility that if you choose like hard enough, if it's, valid enough, they would, you can take yourself back, really. And that really pretty much is what near-death experiences are. Other experiences have been, the first thing that a soul in between lives perceives is they perceive their physical body outside. And then they kind of process that lifetime. There's like a review that happens of like, oh, I think I did well this time, or oh, I didn't really learn this lesson. And really that really what existence is. It is just an infinite cycle of learning and growth. And because in the physical we are so tied down by events in 3D, and this happened and this didn't happen, when going in between lives, all you actually do is look back on that life and just do like a friggin' business review that happens at the end of the year, or like a quarterly review, and you're like, oh yeah, I think I'll do that better next time. Or, oh, this person played a really good role in my life. Like, my dad was like really abusive as hell. He did a really good job. I learned a lot. It's very like not detached, but aware.
Detached, though.
Sorry?
So I said kind of detached, because I've kind of received my own past like that.
I
feel it's like a detached perspective.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I'm not triggered by anything or reacting to anything. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Mm-hmm. I'm not
indeed. Because it's like you're the observer, as they would say.
Yeah.
And so based on your review, sometimes people who have had or have chosen to have a really kind of difficult lifetime, they go into something called like a vacation period. The subconscious or the super consciousness would say, well, after this past life or after this life, they had a really hard time. We kind of gave them a break for a little while. So, and you would also observe that in that people do not incarnate like, very quickly. There is typically a pretty big gap between incarnations. So once you die, there is kind of like a break that you take to process and integrate. And again, I talk about breaks and time and length and all of that. And that is very, very, very 3D, because in essence, there is no time. Right. It's just how we mentally process. But so what a soul is given is what we would understand as break. And then the life they would choose to come into after that would be based on that review. What is it, the lesson that they are choosing to go a little deeper in or up level in, and there are certain souls who have chosen, for example, in these times, that they have chosen just this time to come in with no karma, with no previous, baggage or anything, because they're just here to raise vibration. It's like there's almost no time for them to go through that healing process and, go through all that. They're like here, they're ready, and they're ready to go. Yeah, so it's fascinating, and it's infinite, and so many options.
I love all of this. John is saying, phew, I would like a long break after this go around. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the exact same thing. Oh my God.
He'd probably be given a break if that's how he feels.
So I want to ask you, so the spirit has been two things. I know we want to go forward and talk about your beautiful developing YouTube channel and Embodied Yoga and all that. But first, I want to go back because I missed something important. You were going to tell us how you got from being an oil and gas engineer to a feminine embodiment coach. So let's talk about that first, please.
Yes. And so the mantra that I have chosen to kind of live with now is, and it's very descriptive of my journey, is that my mess is my message. So my mess was that as an oil and gas engineer in a very well-known, corporate company, I was getting paid more money than I can spend. I was living what, you would list off as like highly successful, comfortable life. But I was dead inside. I was burnt out in every way. And I was, as a lot of people kind of go through, there is this list that we feel we need to follow. Like we need to study well, go to the hardest, major. At least for me, I had a very close attachment of what I did and my value. So my value is based on the things I did. So I always chose the hardest things. Accomplishments, yes. I always chose the hardest things. I always wanted to be first. I always wanted to do my best. I always wanted to prove that I am worthy, that I have value. And that was one part of it. The other part was I was never in a place of being comfortable with my emotions at all, with my feminine energy. I grew up in various societies that are actually very oppressive or repressive of any sort of feminine energy. So I see now, as a soul, I chose to experience that because there is a huge contrast. And it was that like excruciating disconnect that pushed me into just letting it all go. Like I left my job. I held on for quite a while, until my body started to fail. Like one of my kidneys stopped working. I couldn't sleep. I was, with anxiety, and it was just all of it. So my body was starting to like, oh, you're not listening well. We're going to make you listen. So in 2017, I chose to just leave. I had no idea what I was going to do. And when I left, because I didn't know anything else, I went through what you would say like a dark night of the soul. I've been through several, but that was perhaps my first. And it was realizing that I did not even know what I liked. I was so disconnected from myself, from my emotions, from my body, from my life. I had no idea. Like I had all the freedom in the world, and I didn't know what to do. I genuinely did not know what would bring me joy.
You're the only person that said those exact words, and I went through this exact thing, different set of circumstances, but the same thing. I didn't know myself at all. I didn't know myself at all. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know my favorite color, my foods. I didn't know what I liked to watch. I didn't know anything. What I like to wear. I had no idea. No idea.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes,
so this
yes.
so I'm not the one that okay. Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah,
Yes, another mirroring.
right, right. Oh my gosh, that's
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, tell me more. I'm listening. This is interesting. Totally.
Thank you for
I'm
listening.
personally interested in this segment right here because I'm like, oh, I was there.
Indeed, because it's the human experience, right, that
Yeah.
connects us truly.
Mhm.
Uh, so so yes, descending into that dark night, I was very depressed. I was very disconnected, and so I chose to go through a life coaching program for me because I was trying to understand what on earth was happening with me. Sorry.
That the ICF life coaching?
Yeah. And that was in Egypt in the beginning. It was before I got here. And so that was like a 4-month program where we would meet for a week every month. And see, I tell you, the first time I went, because it was kind of a spiritually oriented life coaching as well, which I didn't know at the time, but it was just I just got drew to it. So every week for those 4 months, I would go and cry every day. Oh my God, a little cutie. So I would just go cry, 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 cry. And then every month I'd be like, okay, this time I'm not going to cry. I'm going to actually like talk and not like, just like emotionally explode every time. And every time I would emotionally explode. And was it was literally like floodgates opening because I was feeling things in myself that I had never felt before. I was realizing things in myself that had never even crossed my mind. Like, oh, this is why I do this. Like, oh, I actually think that I am unworthy. Or, oh, I actually think that I have no value. Or I actually think that my value lies in this or in that. And it was just like this mind-blowing awareness of knowing me. Um, and that's what started it, really. And when I went through that, I was like, holy God, I'd love to do this for others. Just life-changing. So initially it was that my own rock bottom and my own desire to explore myself that got me into this.
Wow. That's so powerful. I really need to share that in my situation, what caused me to get to that point where I was like, wait a minute, who am I? Was after being in a series of marriages and toxic relationships. And I'm not judging anybody in the past. I know I chose them all, and I chose to be a victim at the time. But anyway, but I labeled them as toxic because they weren't healthy at all. And so instead of dying, which I almost did, I decided to be free because I didn't. I tried to leave the experience and it didn't work, and so I freed myself from the situation. And so once I was free, which was about it's almost 7 years ago now, I guess. I'm like, well, now I'm alone. I moved to a place where I don't know anybody. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I've got nothing and nobody. And it's my life. And I have like a backpack basically, and like maybe a toothbrush. I don't even know if I had a toothbrush at the time. So I'm like, well, great. So now what? And I swear, I was like in the beginning, I would like look at like a stranger, like even in a supermarket, like, is that a good soup? You know what? I'm literally asking other people because I was
Indeed.
used to giving away all of my power to pretty much anybody.
Indeed.
You know, and it's interesting because that obviously that didn't work out well for me. So my first couple of situations, like with neighbors and stuff, were just as great as my last relationship. But that's how I learned to change. And I'm like, well, what do you like? And I'm like, well, I really don't know. I'm like, well, what is your favorite color? I really don't know. Like somebody would like maybe I went to look for something to wear because I needed some more clothes. I'm like, I just don't know. What did I even like? I almost wanted somebody to say, yeah, that looks good on you, but there was nobody there. Now I'm alone, you know? So, and what kind of foods do I like? So I really feel like this is a powerful subject right here. I mean, we're not going to stay here any longer, but I had to talk about that because you were coming from a corporate job and very successful. Oh my God, $1 gazillion and all kinds of amazing things. And yet you're like, I don't even know me.
Yes, indeed.
So, I'm sure there's an infinite amount of sorry about Trixie. She's very wonderful.
No, I'm glad she's here.
Me too. Oh my God, yes, me too. She likes being on camera. But so I guess there's an infinite number of circumstances where people might wind up in the same situation that you and I have experienced,
Indeed.
to find themselves. And
Mm.
John says
And,
amazing story.
Yeah, thank you. I was just reflecting on, even though we were in what one would say very different cultural or upbringings or even geographical wise, it is still, again, the human experience. It's when you choose to give away your power to learn something, you choose to give it away regardless of what culture, what country, what nationality, what religion you're in, and you choose to do it and it happens.
Amazing. So I wanted to ask you a little aside here. I'm curious, like, about some of your past lives. If you want to share, you don't have to, but if you're drawn, maybe like one or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the most vivid ones. I've had visions, in dreams and in my records and things like that. But I choose to share one where I had a QHHT session done on me. And that was fascinating because it brought so much awareness. So let me tell you about it. The past life I chose to go to was a past life in Egypt, where I was a high priestess of Isis. But what the
I knew this.
so what
I just knew this.
we went there.
We went there. Yeah.
And so after the backstory to that past life was, the subconscious or the super consciousness was talking about the fact that what we call as gods in ancient Egypt are not gods. They are highly elevated beings who at the time were perceived as being able to do things that were supernatural. And so they called them gods because they were able to create things. And so what priests and priestesses were, in a sense, were like the connection between these elevated beings and what you would call just a normal human being. So they had a mix of energies. They were not fully elevated beings or fully human. They were a mix of both. So they were able to be almost a bridge between worlds. And the reason for that bridge was what was coming up was that when a god was able to convince others to worship them or be their follower, there was an energetic attachment or connection that got created. So when they almost became loyal to that god, they created an energy cord with them. So the job of a priest or a priestess was to facilitate that process through, kind of convincing people to follow a certain being. Some gods, some elevated beings, in that creation of an energy cord, it was an exchange of love. So in exchange for being connected to that being, there would be a giving and receiving of love. However, with others, the more darker beings, that cord created an energy exchange of fear. So they would almost drain the life out of the person who chose to kind of align with them. So in essence, there were like dark priests and priestesses and light ones. So that was what was coming through in that life, that I was one of those for Isis, basically. And I never really perceived that what a priest or a priestess was kind of doing, but it makes sense. And so I went through a ritual, and it was very vivid. I was describing the temple. I was describing, just every detail, and it felt. I also went through an experience of like losing a very close person to me, because I had chosen to be in a relationship with a normal human, and that was not allowed. And so they basically put an end to it, and I lost that person. And I spent the rest of that lifetime alone. And in remembering that past life, I was like crying profusely because I was in it, and the amount of emotions that was going through me. When I listen to my recording, it's like, it sounds like somebody, like you're talking to somebody like who's in a funeral or something. It's so real. It's so real, because it is. And you're like experiencing it real time, and everything is so amplified. So yeah, so that's one of the really special past lives that I've visited.
Do you think that maybe you came into this life choosing to have this experience? I don't know, I'm just putting stuff together. I don't know. But like where you're detached from your emotions and your femininity because you got hurt in that life? And so you came in here like, I'm detaching.
That's a beautiful question, because that is something that you actually can also ask your higher self to bring clarity on. What was the reason of experiencing that lifetime? And there were several, but the main umbrella was the work that I was doing as a priestess was disempowering people. It was causing them to believe that they do not have the power. They need to give away their power in order to connect. And it was really enlightening, because literally that is what has always been kind of calling to me, like, don't give away your power. You don't need to give away your power. You have everything that you need inside you. And it was it was very enlightening that this time I chose to allow people to remember their own power and not give it away.
I love that. Another segue into what is a feminine embodiment coach?
Yeah, yes. I love how this is flowing so naturally. Yes. So again, the contrast of being in a very masculine energy all my life. I mean, even in my family, I chose not to have sisters. I just have brothers. And growing up, it was always, very, very difficult to connect with females in general for me, because I never really understood. It was a bit of a puzzle for me sometimes. I would observe them because certain things never resonated with me, like, they would have conversations about like the latest color of nail polish, or like, this really cool skirt or this dress. I'd be like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why don't I engage? Like, why don't these things interest me? So that created an even further disconnect between me and the feminine. And also, culturally perceiving that the feminine has to be like covered and invisible and not seen and not heard, and you can't being bombarded at you from everywhere. So the masculine energy was a very safe energy for me to be in. And so that's why I chose an engineering degree. It's absolutely logical. No emotions involved. You don't need to have a single emotion to be an engineer. It's all on paper, and you're good. You're safe. So I chose a very safe major. And again, the career that I chose, I was around men all the time. I barely had maybe one female around me, in the 7 or 8 years that I worked there. So all of that contrast, the complete disconnect from my feminine energy, or even understanding what feminine energy is, led me to understanding that, again, my mess is my message. So I felt really drawn to connect and work with women who were going through, or who have gone through, similar experiences where they felt that being feminine is not safe, or where they felt that being feminine meant, just having like long nails, or, being, and it's okay if that's what it is for you, but being feminine is, there are a lot of negative connotations that have attached themselves to the word feminine. And, there's an entire spectrum of perceiving feminine energy as either something that needs to be really like submissive, to the other end of like the extreme kind of feminism, where a female is asked to be in her masculine energy because being in her feminine energy is perceived as somehow lower. So no, you can't be in a feminine energy. You need to like, you need to just like be in your masculine, because anything else is you're being like a submissive or weak, or not.
I always used to perceive femininity as weak as well. I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, and I did too, and many women do, and there is a reason for that. There is a reason why we have, as females, chosen to disconnect from our feminine power, because it is a massively powerful channel of so many things. And again, when I say feminine and masculine, it has nothing to do with gender, just so that we're clear, because everybody has feminine and masculine energy inside them. And that is why I say I was in my masculine energy, even though I am physically a female. I was still very much masculine. So having said that, sorry?
John says we need a woman president.
Oh, I hear you, brother. I hear you. If women ruled the world, holy God, it would be something else.
Right? That's another subject.
Yeah.
About that later.
Yeah. So yes. So coming back to that, even when men are able to connect with their feminine energy, they have such a unique power, and they are able to grow in massive ways just because they have balanced their masculine and feminine energy. And so a segue into that is, perhaps we need to understand what feminine energy is. So feminine energy has nothing to do with the colors you like, what you wear, the things you say, what you look like even. Feminine energy is the vibration of flow. It's the vibration of receiving. It's the vibration of intuition. It's the vibration of allowing and not forcing. Masculine energy is very much about giving, and even physically, so that also aligns. In intimate relationships, it is the masculine that gives and the woman that receives. And a woman literally just in order to, for example, conceive a child, all that the womb needs to do is just to receive. is just to stay there and receive. And really, that is what feminine energy is. Sorry?
Never thought about it exactly like that, but.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're in your feminine energy, life happens with ease because you're not forcing anything. You trust, like the womb doesn't go like, oh God, I wonder if that sperm's going to find its way. Oh, I wonder if that egg's going to make it. Like, oh God, this is like, I need to do something about this. It just bees. Right? It just trusts. It knows. And that is what feminine energy is. It's that knowing, it's that trust, it's that faith. It's that knowing that there is no desire to force, and that you do what you can and everything else will flow. So essentially, that really is what feminine energy is, and that is why it has been so difficult for women sometimes to be in that, because there is that perception of society of that if you don't do, then you don't have value. So you need to do and not be. And doing is very masculine, while being is feminine. And so imagine the power of that, not just in women, but imagine men who are in their feminine energy. God, it would make their life so much easier. To just be open to receive and flow and trust and connect with their intuition instead of, the mental mind, which sometimes operates from a place that is very 3D and from a very like looking at your feet perspective, and not the intuitive perspective that is like all seeing from here. So it would make their lives, really, men and women, absolutely fascinating.
Joan says, yeah, it's true. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so let me ask you this. So a feminine embodiment coach, do you work with men as well, or you specifically work with women?
Mm-hmm. So far, I mean, I choose to be open to any and all paths that will lead to service. So far, my experience has been working with women. And through embodiment, what we do is that there are various things. So through coaching, we go through moving energy within the body, a little bit like what we do in the Akashic Records. Sometimes through the embodiment coaching, we even do it in the record to kind of have the energy amplified. Okay. There are different breathwork techniques that allow you to come into your body to feel. Because emotions, the feeling, that is where the feminine energy is, the feeling. So when you are able to connect with the feeling, you're able to navigate the feminine energy in your body. So through breath work, through energy movement, through dance. Dance is amazing. Dance is such a powerful tool. Music, vibration, yes, indeed. Such an instant, almost mood changer and energy clearer. And just you think about it, if there's a certain song that you've always associated with, like, I don't know, like a breakup or something, the instant you hear it, it's like these waves of sadness wash over you, even though, nothing's happening. You're just remembering. And so in the same way, when you dance or align with music that is of a vibration that will raise you and give you a positive association, when you release that energy, every time you listen to that music, that process is going to happen again. And it allows you to really be in your body. Another practice that just came to me that is really, really, that really resonated with me, and I always like to do the things that, that I feel have given me huge value, so that I come from a place where, like, oh, this really works. Like, when I present it and be of service, I know that it's going to work. So something called you can call it several things, but essentially what it is, it's a self-discovery meditation. And Yeah, I'll briefly say what it is. You can do it lying down, or sitting, or however it is, but it is essentially a time that you take to very intricately and intimately, with your eyes closed, physically connect with your body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And, you know, we touch our body all the time, but do we touch our body with consciousness? And do we touch our body with love? When you close your eyes and really feel like, oh, I never realized that's actually how my skin feels, or like you feel the warmth of your cheeks, or the curves in your neck, or the feel of your hair, and it's a very intimate and slow and loving process that you do to yourself. And first time I did it, for me, I was like, my God, I don't think I didn't really realize that's my body like. I've never like touched my body with consciousness. So that's a beautiful practice to come back in body, to remember what it's like to be in your body.
I love this. What you're. I mean, I never had. Oops. This is another thing that I was drawn to do for myself, even like to hold my own hand or to. I know. I get what you're saying. So I just posted your beautiful YouTube channel in the comments.
Thank you.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so now is this one of the meditations that you have now there posted there?
It will be. So, my YouTube channel is in its infant stages. I choose to believe that it's going to expand very, very quickly, and I have so many ideas and things to put on there. One of those things, yes, will be that self discovery meditation, or self connection meditation. Um, and you can do that in various ways. You know, you can do that with touching. I found that that has been the most profound. But there are other ways that you can do it, where you can literally stand naked in front of the mirror and just admire yourself. Like really admire every inch of your body, and, you know, really giving it gratitude to how magical and miraculous everything in it is. Um, you know, taking that time to like really love on yourself, that can be a meditation as well. That will not be on YouTube. But another practice that will also be on YouTube is what you had mentioned earlier, the embodied yoga, right?
Yeah.
So
embodied yoga. What is embodied yoga?
Yes. So I've worked with various mentors that were focused on things like conscious language,
Mm-hmm.
the power of decrees, and the power of collaborating decrees with body language. And so this is what births embodied yoga. So let me clarify that. When you are experiencing embodied yoga, you are not required to look at a teacher at all. It's actually going to be just audio, maybe with a picture or something, but really the intention of it is not to take you out of your body. You don't need to do anything, don't need to look, you don't need, it's just to listen and be in your body. And the the instructions, or the journey, really, it's more of a journey, takes you through what to do with your body, how to place, you know, your legs, your hands, but more importantly is that every pose aligns with a certain energy. So for instance, and that really is what the purpose of yoga is. So for instance, you know, poses like, for example, the tree pose, where you're standing on one leg.
Mm-hmm.
That the tree pose can give you so much awareness about what is actually going on in your body. When you're able to stand on your right leg without, you know, flinching or without falling off, your right leg is your masculine. that means that the masculine energy in your life is stable. It's holding up. If it's not, that means you don't have enough structure in your life. You're wobbling in your goal setting, in your commitment, in your decision making, in your masculine energy things. And then when you switch legs, if your left leg is the one that is kind of off, that means that feminine energy is not supported. So you're not in tune with your intuition. It's beautiful how the body speaks. The body is just infinite vessel of awareness that we just need to listen to. And so, you know, when you have that awareness, then we integrate certain decrees. So for example, for when standing on your right leg, you would say, I am supported. I am strong. I make decisions with ease. Or if you're on your left leg, in order to balance that energy, it would be something like, I flow with life, or I am infinite flow, or the divine in me creates life with ease. You know, certain decrees that would align with the pose and to allow you to really ground down in your body, and doing all of it without looking at anybody outside of you. It's all inside within you, and that's all you need.
Wow, that's powerful. Oh my God, I've never heard of this before. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating.
So you're gonna have beautiful embodied yoga on your YouTube channel.
Yes, I choose to upload them soon. They will be journeys where you will be going through various poses and understanding what each pose is meant to reflect energetically, and also being given decrees to say in that pose so that you clear your energy and align.
Wow, I love it. You're a best, my dear. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here.
Me too.
I didn't realize how much time has passed. We've been talking for an hour and a half. I love it.
Wow.
I didn't even ask you how much time you had to be here tonight, but so I want to make sure that we've talked about everything before we wrap it up and tell everybody how to find you and what kind of services they can get. Is there anything else that I haven't asked about that you're just
Well, really, no, I feel that, you know, we've covered everything. We can, I love talking with you, and you know, we can, it's beautiful how when you're in that space, the words just flow, and it's like, oh, I keep talking, to no end.
Again, I really feel like maybe on YouTube, maybe we can do like collab on YouTube.
Yeah, I would love that.
That would be super fun.
Yeah.
So guys, subscribe to both of our YouTube channels for sure. You know, you definitely want to subscribe to Yomna Zein's YouTube channel. And I did post that in the comments. And subscribe to mine too. I've got a personal channel and a High Vibrational Mastery channel. We happen to be on High Vibrational Mastery this evening, as I was drawn. But I think that would be great. I think we could do that because I really feel like there's a lot of topics that we could really dig in, you know, dive deeply into.
Indeed.
Like, take one topic at a time on that kind of a platform.
Indeed. And that's why, you know, in the very beginning, it's what I felt, you know, it's also what we're kind of meant to do, like play in consciousness, because it's so infinite, and it's a journey of self-growth, and because you grow, others grow around you, and it's beautiful.
I love it. You're incredible. So tell everybody, please, where they can find you and what kind of services they can book through you.
Yes. So as you beautifully mentioned, there is my YouTube channel. I also have my Facebook page, which is with my name, Yomna Zein. I also have a Facebook group called the Feminine Experience. And it is a group where women can connect and share these embodied practices, and, you know, go through discussions. And I also hold women's circles, and I post the women's circle events in that group as well.
And those are live in person, or they're virtual, they're on Zoom, or how do you do those?
So I started women's circles first in person, and after COVID moved to virtual, I feel that there is possibly a shift where I will be doing both at some point in the near future, because in-person circles have a very distinct energy. But also I have realized that virtual circles allow people who are not in Houston or who don't have that option to also have that available. So I trust both will kind of be going on together.
I feel that for you as well.
Thank you.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. And did you talk about your website and about the feminine experience?
Yeah, so the services. My website is currently kind of under construction because as I'm flowing, it's flowing with me. So I have a right. I have a Calendly link that is also on my Facebook page. And the services that I currently offer are Akashic readings, the embodied coaching sessions, the QHHC, of course. And you can look on the Calendly link and or really just whoever feels drawn to just connect and speak. I love to just really have conversations and connect with other people, and have conversations like this. It's a joy to me. So connect in any way. I'm always open and willing.
I love it. I just post your
The Calendly link.
your YouTube channel, Facebook group, and all of those.
Thank you, love.
Comments. You're so welcome. This has been my honor and pleasure. I just love you. You're amazing. I'm looking forward to
I love you too.
again. And I want to thank everyone who is live with us now and everyone who's watching on the replay, because you're drawn to be here. And energy is infinite, and their time is only a man-made construct. So it's always the right time when you're watching this, because everything is happening now. So Yomna, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, love. Thank you. Thank you. So grateful to appreciate you. Thank you. And yeah, to everyone who watched. And this has been absolutely blissful.